was smart enough to see that I'm not winning this bull versus bull. Our horns, I'm not getting the better up on him with my horns. I need to stop and become the matador. And when he started doing that, the Olay was for Gennady Golovkin. It was Canelo that was now struggling to catch up, to cut off the ring, to put damage to Triple G. And that's why those fights were so close, so intriguing. That's why fans are asking for a rubber match. So I don't see Demetrius getting that opportunity against Canelo because right now, Canelo is at the top of the hill that he can do. Arnold Schwarzenegger said it best, when you're on the top of the hill, when you're the lion on top of the hill, you decide when you want to come down to the valley and pick what you want to eat. When you're king, you make those decisions. And when you feel like I can eat this or I can eat that. So Demetrius, to me, has to pressure the other belt holders to face him and hope that the cash money cow, takes notice of him and says, okay, all right, you've been waiting long enough. Let's do it. I don't see Gennady Golovkin doing that either, unless Gennady just finally gets over his obsession over Canelo and realizes that there are other guys out there that could potentially help him write up his legacy. I don't know.
Canelo's like Glenn Close in Fatal Attraction, chasing after Michael Douglas, to use a movie analogy, David.
Well, he needs to make Demetrius his bunny rabbit in the boiling pot.
Yeah, he needs to start bringing around the bunny rabbit in the boiling pot.
Right? Yeah, I mean, that's the only way. Look, I think that or rematch the kid that he struggled with.
Derevyanchenko.
Derevyanchenko. Rematch him. There's a meme right now that's out of the Narco series from Netflix. You ever seen that? With Pablo Escobar, where he's just like standing out, he's like looking out in the distance, and he's sitting on the bench. He looks all sad and all that. That's what I kind of vision what the Gennady Golovkin fans look right now, because they're just like, man, when is he going to fight son? So when is he going to announce his next fight? When is the next big thing for the Gennady Golovkin? Don't get me wrong, I like Gennady Golovkin. I know he's turned off a lot of people, but I like what he does in the ring. Outside the ring, his decisions of waiting for Canelo, to me, it really has hurt all the possibilities of what he could be right now, because he's been so hung and obsessed. He's like I told you before, he's become Marquez for Pacquiao.
I'm very happy that you're referring to the man as Gennady Golovkin and not Triple G, because that's starting to seem like two different people to me. Triple G was the guy that was in the ring knocking dudes out left and right. Gennady Golovkin is this new old version that's ducking and dodging. I mean, he was always supposedly ducking and dodging, but Gennady Golovkin is this new old version that kind of looks washed up. He ain't knocking people out left and right. And he just looks slower in the ring. He's getting hit a lot more. He's getting marked up. He's just not as he doesn't have the same ring generalship he did before, and he's just not like he doesn't seem like the top dog anymore.
So when you're fighting guys that are actual elite fighters, it changes everything too, Kenny. When you're fighting guys that really are true 160, it's very difficult to knock. I mean, it's every champion that finally faces real true competition. You're supposed to blow out the guys that were put in front of you for a stepping stone, right? You're supposed to do that. But when you finally start stepping up and facing guys that are real middleweights or really in their prime, it's very hard. I don't knock Gennady Golovkin for not knocking out these guys. I think that go ahead, Amilcar.
David, what I heard Kenny say was that Golovkin went from being Gennady Triple Gangster Golovkin to Gennady Money Golovkin. Is that kind of accurate, Kenny?
I like the sound of that.
Wow.
That was the aura that he had. Nobody wants to F with this guy. He will knock out anybody in front of him. He's destroying people left, right, and center. But as you put it, David, this is a guy who early on was being fed lower level competition. And as he got into the higher echelons of the sport and of the division, the blowout victories started to become razor thin decisions for his opponent. You know,
All
Right.
right. So that leaves me with a question.
yeah.
What high level opponent has Triple G faced? Okay, I know two of them. Canelo and Derevyanchenko. Okay, who else besides that?
Well,
He fought
Jenny
Kasim
Jacob,
Uma.
Jenny Jacob, and Kasim Uma gave him hell early on, and
Gave
Kasim
him hell
Uma
early on, right?
and Kasim Uma was not a natural middleweight either.
Jacobs was great. Okay, cool. Jacobs was great. Who else?
That's
Uma, cool. Whatever. We'll put him. We'll put him on the list.
There's nobody else. I mean, you could make the argument that after that, his best win is David Lemieux.
David Lemieux, Macklin. I mean, there's guys. Look, I mean, we could sit here and look at his whole resume. You know, Macklin was beaten by Sergio Martinez. He was a tough competitor, but these guys weren't ever destined to be, you know, the next big thing in the division. You know, the thing with Gennady Golovkin, he was being fed guys he was supposed to beat. Why? Because he was waiting for two things: guys to finally fight him, and he was chasing the money. Even before the whole aura of him, he could knock out anybody. He was chasing the money. I mean, let's not forget, you know, when he was climbing up the rankings, he was on Leaving the Ring saying him and Abel Sanchez, when they were a team, they both were saying, we'll fight Andre Ward, we'll move up to 168, and we'll fight Floyd Mayweather. We can move down. We can do up and down. We can do the wish-wash. We can do whatever you guys want. You know, when they were on Leaving the Ring, they said, we don't want Miguel Cotto. We want the WBC belt. It just happens that Miguel Cotto has the belt. We don't want, you know, and it just moved on more and more and more. You know, so even then he was chasing the money. Even then he understood that as a prize fighter, and you can't knock him for this. I mean, come on. That's why it's coined prize fighter. They're fighting for a big prize, you know. But what I'm saying, my argument is this: don't be surprised that he's not knocking out guys right now in his career, because guess what? Now he's facing guys that honestly are trying to stay where they're at. They are the best. That's why, to me, it'd be a very impressive win if he rematched Derevyanchenko, knocks him out, or he takes on Demetrius Andrade, because right now Demetrius Andrade is in the same shoes that he once was in. Not in the same shoes of saying that he knocked everybody out, but in terms of claiming, I'm the guy that nobody wants to fight. Gennady Golovkin should have a little bit of a soft heart in that part and understand what Demetrius is feeling right now, being that nobody wants to be in the sandbox with him and play with him at all.
I agree with that.
And one weight class down, I think one fight that we'll all pretty much agree that is exciting and worthwhile looking forward to is the Julian Williams Jason Rosario fight for the IBF WBA junior middleweight title. It's a unified championship fight. This Williams
my cherry pick.
First, yeah. Well, you know the thing about Williams.
Thank you, Kenny.
Welcome. I'm every time I say cherry pick.
I didn't have to say it. Kenny said it. Thank you.
I'm about to start popping up cherries on the screen every time that any one of us says cherry pick. Cherries gonna start popping up on the screen.
You're not interested. Well, look, is it a fight of the year candidate fight? Are we expecting something like that? No, but you know, it's a fight featuring a unified champion in a division, Kenny, 154, that I know is one of your favorite divisions, because we actually spent a while talking about that yesterday. So I thought that you might be interested in, but why don't you explain why you're not interested in it?
Well, he should be fighting some of the bigger fish. You know, if anything, I would much rather see a rematch with Hurd. You know, I would much rather see I forgot his name. Erislandy Lara. I would much rather see Harrison, Charlo. You know, the list could go on of names that I would much rather see that are better opposition for a unified champion at 154. You know.
What happened to Hurd, man? I mean,
he's gotten incognito, guys. He's gone.
He really has, bro. You know,
I don't know where.
Look,
the worst thing about it was that I haven't seen him sparring, I haven't seen him give an interview, I haven't seen him box anything, right? Then the first interview that I see him give is an interview, him talking bad about Charlo, saying that Charlo is too emotional and has no heart, and that's the reason that Charlo's gonna lose. He should be focusing on getting his belts back and getting his heart back. He just got beat up badly.
That's but we know what though. Look, when you're beat up that bad, and we got to admit, Williams took his soul. He did the Mortal Kombat. You know what I mean? He did a Mortal Kombat on Hurd. It's really hard to come back from that. It's really, really hard. I'll be surprised that Hurd isn't even the same. You know, that's got to be really just. He's got to be waking up in sweat that Williams was able to fight his game plan and push him back. What was that?
I said it's a serious blow, and honestly, it's the only reason I kind of give Anthony Joshua a pass for fighting the way he did against Andy Ruiz, because it had to be very difficult to get off the floor so many times, get humiliated like that in New York, and then have to go back and fight the guy that did it to you. And to his credit, he was able to do it. It sounds like what you're saying, David, is that you don't think Hurd is capable of coming back with that kind of a performance.
Well, I mean, does he look like? Look, there's a difference with AJ right now. When AJ got stopped, right, and he went back home, you know what he did? He did some soul searching. He decided to find out really if he was a warrior. I'm not saying that Hurd is not a warrior, okay? But what I'm saying is that there are particular fighters, there are certain fighters that go against the grain of being told it's over, right? They actually seem to like the odds against them at all times. I think AJ fell asleep that boxing can change. The change of guard in boxing is so easy, so simple. It's always one punch away. It's always one decision away. You got to be on your toes. You know, boxing is a truth teller. I've always said this years back. You know, boxing is the truth teller. It's going to tell us whether or not you trained, whether or not you got the balls to stay in there, and whether or not you're going to come back from a beating. Hurd right now has not shown me an ounce of whether or not it was a bad night or the better man beat me, but I'm going to be better the second time around. I haven't seen that. I haven't seen that motivation from him. You know, I've always said, I always tell my kids this: talking shit is just a whistle in the wind. It just ends up fizzling out and disappearing. You know, it's your actions that really show what you want. And I don't think Hurd wants anything to do with Williams. Maybe he's sitting back. Maybe the strategic plan is to sit back and let Williams fight and get a little war and torn. I don't know.
That doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense, but, you know, we don't know. You know, sometimes a fighter, you know, let me ask you this. Let me ask you guys this. And really search your memory here. Yeah. Tell me give me one name of the last fighter that has said publicly and openly, I'm afraid.
I don't know of any.
Any, right?
Doesn't ring a bell.
Doesn't ring one bell, right? But I'll tell you what. How about motivations of what they're doing, like avoiding a fight, or you know, hang tight, waiting for other guys to fight it off before they step back into the ring, waiting for the right opponent to step into the ring. Those are forms, in my opinion.
Calling out guys in their 40s for fights, and then saying that they're scared. Well, that was another dig at Terrence Crawford because he did that, but.
Honestly, I just think that Hurd, like you said, J-Rock took Hurd's soul like Shang Tsung. He just swallowed his soul completely, and it is what it is. It's gonna take some time for Hurd to get back. And the thing is that, see, Hurd went so far in that weight division because he was so big. So he had such big length and such big body and weight and so much more muscle than everybody else in that division. So he was just going in there pretty much bulldozing everybody or trucking everybody like if it was light, eating all their hits like if it was cotton. You know, now it's much different now. He finally faced somebody with boxing skill, although he did face Erislandy Lara, which has a lot of boxing skill. And Erislandy Lara beat him the entire fight. But guess what? Erislandy Lara got overpowered at the end of the fight. He couldn't take that power, that size for 12 rounds. At the
he was fighting on older
fight,
legs at that point.
So at the end of that fight, he abused him with the body size. Now he went to somebody who's just slightly bigger than Erislandy Lara, that has maybe similar boxing ability to Erislandy Lara. And what happened? The guy got knocked down. What was it, the second and third round, and abused, outboxed, outclassed for the whole fight. The guy has to go back to the books like Anthony Joshua did, not only do some soul searching, but he needs to work on his whole boxing ability and stop focusing on that just physical muscle bodybuilding regimen that he had going on.
Or losing a lot of weight and getting big again on fight day, because that's his biggest strategy, the ability to lose a lot of weight and then gain a lot of weight for the fight. So I take it to mean that you both think that this is a win for J-Rock, right?
I don't know. I mean, look, let me just go back really quick and make my points, and then I'll talk about this, whether or not J-Rock wins this. I think he should, but here's three things that we need to point out. Mm-hmm. One, J-Rock came with a good game plan. They actually studied tape of Hurd.
Yeah, great game plan.
Second one was they asked for testing. Think about this. Hurd didn't test when he fought Erislandy. Hurd didn't test any other time. The first time he tested, guess what? He seemed like a normal sluggish guy. Didn't seem like the normal Hurd that comes on, brings on the train. I'm not saying that he was on anything, but I'm also saying, though, that for some reason, testing obviously made him something that we were not used to seeing. Here's the third thing. Mm-hmm. When I started covering the sport, I went down to see Jack Mosley. And at that time, Jack Mosley and Shane Mosley, his son, were really campaigning hard to fight Floyd Mayweather. But instead, they were going to take on Antonio Margarito. The major concern was because Antonio Margarito had just bulldozed over Miguel Cotto, which a lot of folks said Miguel Cotto should have won that fight, right? So I'm sitting across Jack Mosley, and I said to him, what makes you guys believe, because Shane has not looked in the best of what he used to when he fought like Adrian Stone or when he beat Oscar De La Hoya. He doesn't look like the same guy. He's an older fighter, and he tends to throw one punch at a time. What makes you guys think this is the match you guys have been waiting for and wanting? Because he told me this is the match we wanted. When Golden Boy offered, we jumped on it immediately. And he said two things to me that were very interesting. He said, one, Shane Mosley from Pomona. All we've ever fought are Mexicans. We love Mexicans. We grew up around Mexicans. We know their style. Shane is in a lot of ways, is Mexican, Dave. Two, when you have a man that's overly confident, when a man that's been able to go out there and destroy guy after guy or win after win, confidence sometimes can be a man's worst enemy. Why? Because they oversee a lot of things. Hurd, going back to Hurd and Williams, I think that was one of Hurd's biggest problems. He was being told he was the next Antonio Margarito. This guy was bulldozing over everybody. Maybe he didn't pay attention well enough of what J-Rock was bringing to the table and oversaw everything that J-Rock was going to do that night. That's why he couldn't adjust. But I think, too, a little bit with that testing, throw it in there, and guess what? We just had the right potion.
Yeah, and I agree with every one of those points, Dave. They're all great points. The other thing I'll say about Hurd, have you ever seen him adjust his style to an opponent that he's fighting?
It never happened.
It seems like every fight is just a war of attrition where he's going to eat and eat and eat and then start to land.
Glutna, is that what you call it? Gluttony or whatever?
Well, actually, he actually ate a lot of punches and then would, wear his opponents down. It was a style that I never ever thought would be long sustaining for him.
I mean, I've never seen anybody in boxing sustain a career off of being way bigger and way more muscular than the other guy and take that into their 40s. I've never seen that go far.
No, not at all. So again, J Rock, Kenny, you said you're not that excited about it. It sounds like both, David and I think that he's likely going to win this fight against Rosario. I think it's going to be possibly an interesting fight. Just because I kind of really want to J Rock is.
I think it is going to be interesting because, like I mentioned, confidence sometimes can be a fighter's worst enemy. J Rock seems to be on top of the world. J Rock is pounding at the table that everybody should take testing, which I agree with them. If you're going to fight for the title, you should test. But I also think that if you are asking for that, it should be all year round, not just 3 or 4 months away from the title fight. Practice what you preach. That's what I believe, and I've actually expressed that to J Rock on Twitter. He never responded back to me, but I said that. Practice what you preach. Why don't you enroll in the year round? I do like that he's campaigning, test and stuff, but do it all year round, Donaire did it, Canelo did it. Canelo stopped from it. Why? Because nobody else wanted to follow suit. Nobody wanted to do it, So I think with J Rock, to me, guys, he's a throwaway champion. And what do I mean by that is that in any given night, I think he can get beaten. There's no solid ground with him.
Oh, I agree. He already has
I mean?
it. He already has
it. I agree.
Right? And this is why I think he's vulnerable, and I think it's going to be an interesting fight. I mean, I expect him to win, but it's not so much of a. Well, I always watch every fight, anyways, but it's still enough of an intrigue for me. Now, David, I've been throwing out some fights that I have not necessarily got your guys' attention and excitement going, but I think the next one will. Again, it's on the undercard of the Andrade Kaler fight in Miami, January 30th. Tevin Farmer, Joseph Diaz.
Oh yeah.
12-round IBF junior lightweight title. I'm buzzed about this one. What about you, Dave?
Oh yeah, I'm really buzzed about this one. I think Farmer originally was taking so much heat from fans, but you know what? He listened. And you gotta love a fighter that was trying to think like a business guy. And I don't knock down fighters, man, that think long term or think about their money, okay, about the investment. Their investment is their hands, their body, right? I never knocked that. Why? I'm gonna tell you why. Because in the 80s, in the 90s, anytime you would hear a fighter getting beat up, and then in the end of his career, he ended up homeless and he ended up with nothing, we would say, man, I wish our fighters would get smarter. I wish somebody would help them, understand the business part of boxing. Well, when they do that, guess what? I mean, you get so many people coming at them going, no, we want you to be stupid. Stay stupid. Stay stupid that you're not getting paid what you're supposed to get paid. And when I hear a fighter go like, no, man, I have a value. You guys got a value. I go to work and I hear this all the time. I'll go to a job and a customer, I'll give the estimate to a customer. I'll tell him like it's $400, and the guy will be like, oh man, can't you do it for way cheaper? Like do it for $100. And I ask them all the time. And I shit you not. This is what I really say to the customers that tell me this. I go, what is it that you do for a living? And I'll have a guy go, oh, I'm an electrician or I'm an engineer. And I say, do you get paid salary or an hourly base? And 9 out of 10, they're going to say hourly, right? And I say, okay, so when you work for 8 hours and your boss comes to your workstation and says, hey, Kenny, I know you work 8, but dude, you think you could clock in only 5?
Right.
Right? And that's the end of the discussion. That's the end of the discussion.
Unfortunately, I think we've all been there, and we all feel like slapping the hell out of somebody when a request like that is made.
When it comes to boxing, though, it's I think it's slightly different because in boxing, I feel like they have not much more. They have a little much more control over their fortune. For example, think about it like a scale. Think about it like a scale, right? One side you have money, the other side you have a Hall of Fame career. You know, you go too much to one side, to the money side, your Hall of Fame career is out the door. Don't even think about that. You go too much to the other side, the Hall of Fame career. Well, you know what? If you go towards the Hall of Fame career and you really fight towards that and you really fight the best, you are going to make the big bucks no matter what. So, you know, I think it can be a balance of acts regarding finances when you're a fighter or regarding a Hall of Fame career. You know, if you just choose finances, you're probably gonna get a good amount of money, but it go down in history as that's a whatever fighter. Like we were saying, that's a throwaway fighter. You know, but if they chase the Hall of Fame career and fight the best of the best as early as possible towards the end of their career, they will be the cash cow, like my dude Canelo.
Yeah.
Well, look.
So, sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
No, go ahead. You go finish your thought, bro.
No, I was just gonna ask. You know, as JoJo Diaz with the hair color changes and you know the up and down kind of career thus far, do you think he shows up for this fight? I think that Tevin Farmer is exactly what JoJo Diaz needed. You know, to bring that fire and to bring that motivation and to get on the right path in terms of being focused and motivated for a fight. I'm expecting him to bring it to Farmer. And
I hope he does, because I don't want him to show up the way he did with Russell. He showed up like Chris Farley, dude, all like, I'm all ready to go, and didn't do anything.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're right. He took that loss against Russell. And
I mean,
not
only did he not take that loss, he got schooled in that loss.
Yeah.
You know?
Yes, he did.
And he didn't even try to turn it up.
And much like you were saying about Hurd earlier, as he bounced back. Now the thing is with Diaz is that he's won 4 straight fights since then, right?
Right. Right.
You know, only one of them has been by knockout, and the last one was a majority decision. But he still has won his last 4 fights. I see these fights as being kind of confidence-boosting fights, confidence-reboosting fights, something that Joshua didn't have the luxury of doing because he wanted to win his titles back. But you know, I think he's got his 4 fights under his belt. His confidence is probably back up a little bit. And you know, one thing that Tevin Farmer is not is a power puncher. So
at all.
Yeah. So I expect him to take it directly to Farmer, and that to me as a boxing fan excites me because I want to see what happens.
Well, here's two things that could happen though with that. He's not a puncher, but he is a volume puncher. And when you're a volume puncher, with a guy like JoJo, he needs pausing moments to let his hands go because he needs to see he needs to see his target. He doesn't really create angles. He just makes the momentum by the guy coming forward and him throwing the punch. That's why he had such problems with Gary Russell Jr. Is Gary Russell Jr. gave him angles, wasn't really there to be touched, and also let his hands go. He kept them always preoccupied, kept them off his back foot. Farmer can do the exact same thing with that type of style. Keep him off his back of his foot, not allow him to see the target. Could be right in front of him, and JoJo can choke again and end up looking like Chris Farley in one of his Saturday night coaching skits. You know, I like JoJo.
Yeah, I
think JoJo could pull it off. Go ahead, Kenny. I'm sorry. Go for it.
No, you good. I was gonna say pretty much ask the question. Give my 2-second thoughts and ask the question to sum it all up. My 2-second thought is I would actually like to see Tevin Farmer win because I would love to see Tevin Farmer versus Gary Russell, and that is even more possible if Tevin Farmer wins. Besides that, I don't really care who wins. It's going to be a great match. Lots and lots of punches thrown and lots of punches landed. I do look forward to it. But yeah, like I said, I go for Tevin Farmer, not for any reason besides me wanting to see Tevin Farmer versus Gary Russell. And now the question is, I guess to sum up the thought, who do you guys choose coming out as the winner in this fight? And it's a 2-part question. If you do choose, I'm losing catching brain fog. If you do choose Joseph Diaz, do you see him possibly getting a rematch with Gary Russell?
Uh, I
I
mean,
don't see that happening.
I think the safe money. You guys know that I always usually like to roll with the underdog. It just makes watching boxing a lot more fun for me, and I've
Mhm.
always been the kind of guy that roots for the underdog.
Who's
Um,
the underdog in this one, though?
but
Amilcar?
you know, I think Joseph Diaz Jr. is the underdog, David, and I think he's the
I
underdog
think so too.
for the reasons that you gave. You know, the last time he fought a boxer like kind of on this level in terms of pure skills, what was Gary Russell, and we all saw what happened. It was essentially a nationally televised embarrassment for him, and the Tevin Farmer that we've seen now repeatedly on the zone, which I would think has actually been good for him, the fact that he's been on the zone. That Tevin Farmer beats all of the versions of Joseph Diaz we've seen up to this point, right? The real question again, and these are where the intangibles come into play, does a different, motivated, focused Joseph Diaz with a game plan and the ability to switch game plans, because you know Tevin Farmer can switch hit, he can show you different angles and different looks. Do we see something special? If we don't get a special Joseph Diaz, what we're getting is a Tevin Farmer a boxing lesson. That's what I
An adjusted JoJo Diaz, not a
yeah
special. I don't think he needs
yeah
to be overly special against Tevin Farmer. I think he needs to be an adjusted and clear-headed and think on the fly JoJo Diaz. That's really hard for me, in my opinion, for any young fighter to conquer. We've seen JoJo Diaz grow. I from the first time I've seen the kid, I'm like, oh man, this guy is a good fighter. But at the same time, have you seen improvement? I've never seen improvement from JoJo Diaz. We know who JoJo Diaz is. Tevin Farmer, we know who Tevin Farmer is. But the difference with me when it comes to comparing the two is
yeah.
I think Farmer's a bit smarter. Not saying that JoJo Diaz is dumb, so don't come at me all crazy in Gmails and all
No
that. But
no
what I'm saying is in terms of the smarter fighter and more adjusted fighter and willing to adjust to get the win might be Tevin Farmer. Because JoJo looked like a deer in the headlights when he fought Gary Russell Jr. And even with 4 fights under his belt with the comeback to get this really good anticipated grudge match with Tevin Farmer, none of them were close to being a boxer where he could cut the ring off and demonstrate that he has conquered the demons of a boxing mover with a lot of punches that being thrown at him. I don't know yet. You know, he may surprise us. I'm hoping that he surprises us because that's what boxing is really about. A boxing is about, you know, hurdling over accomplishments that you're being told you can't hurdle over. You know, you can't win, right? So I
yeah.
anticipate a 50-50 fight. I think that I think it really depends on who implicates. And I always said this: it's always who starts what. You know, who starts to lead the dance. When you allow the other person to lead the dance, it's the 90% chance that person is going to control the ring generalship. You know, so my thing for JoJo is one is how do they train? Two was did they have the right sparring partners in front of them? And three is did they train to cut the ring off and not allow the volume puncher to breathe? Because when you make a volume puncher not being able to breathe, not to be able to have the arm distance and let their hands go, and you're up close in their chest, it makes them do things that they shouldn't do. They makes them do the mistakes that they know they shouldn't do, but they're going to end up taking that risk because they don't know any other way to get out of it. You know, volume punchers don't like to box backwards. They don't know how to box backwards. They know how to be stuck in the mud, let their hands go, you know, and make you take a step back because you're being overwhelmed. It's the killer bee effect.
Absolutely.
I've always called that.
Example,
you know,
classic example would be Santa Cruz Jr.
Right. You know,
right.
Look, I think Santa Cruz Jr. versus Gervonta Davis is a really hell of a good fight, even though folks are like, I don't know about that one. I think it's a good fight if it was to happen. Why? Because I don't think Davis carried his power up very well. You could put it on his weight. his weight and he didn't make weight, wasn't too serious about it, blah, 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 blah. But let me tell you this, even if you're a fat fuck, your power doesn't leave. It's still there.
Absolutely. And he was fighting a 38-year-old lightweight. That's very old for a lightweight. That's like a 48-year-old.
It is old. It is old.
38-year-old lightweight that tore his Achilles in the second round.
It is old, but you have to admit that this dude went in there super solid and swole. His traps and his neck looked like they would eat a punch from AJ.
He's always looked like that, even when he gets knocked out.
No. When he got knocked out against Crawford, he wasn't that big. But you're right. Davis's power didn't translate, and it didn't look good on him. But he wasn't that big when he got knocked out by Terrence Crawford, Gamboa.
He's always been in fit. Let me say, he's always been fit. He's always been cut up. I think he's just a natural guy with that type of physique.
Well, look, he's also been associated with Biogenesis down in Miami.
Right.
What was that?
Forget that.
Biogenesis. Explain that for people like myself.
Kenny. And I'm using air quotes here. Actually, we're on video, so I'll do it on video.
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
It's an anti-aging clinic.
Right.
Okay, so
he was on that list.
He was on that list, and if anyone wants to know about that, there's a great documentary on Netflix that kind of talks about the South Florida scene when it came to performance-enhancing drugs, and Alex Rodriguez and a bunch of other guys like Manny Ramirez who were also involved. So yeah,
I remember reaching out to them when that happened. He got on that list. I remember reaching out to his team because I've interviewed Gamboa a few times, and you talk about crickets, man. I mean, nothing, dude. What
are you gonna say? He was on the list. You know what I mean?
I just wanted to know you're on that list. What's going on? Why are you on that list? They denied it.
You think they're staying at 135 since we're on that topic?
Who will?
What was that?
I said, you think it? Well, he probably is, but you think Davis is gonna stay at 135, and do you think that's a good move for him? Off of throwing that first fight.
I think he better not think about going up to 140 because the next guy I wanted to talk about, I think right now, would absolutely destroy him, and that's Jose Ramirez if they were to fight right now. And the other beasts at 140, he's got no business going up anymore in weight. He needs to, if anything, I think he rushed his way out of 130. It's just that he couldn't make the weight anymore because I thought there were great fights there for him against guys like Farmer. Right.
But then again, Davis looks like he's
Ramirez.
Sorry.
Pardon me?
Sorry.
I said Santa Cruz, in my opinion, is a smaller version of Jose Ramirez. Throws a lot of punches.
Yeah.
And it's just gonna swarm all over him. So
and has a great chin. Great chin.
Yep.
Great cardio. Punches in bunches. And also, you know what I like that Jose Ramirez does, David, and I know you'll appreciate this too. He jabs to the body. He varies his jab, and also he doesn't throw everything with power. He'll throw in a few flurries and then hit you with the powerful one, whether it's to the body or to the head. He hides his power, but with power punch with volume punches. But he'll throw in the fourth or fifth shot in a flurry will be a power shot.
So you guys really think that Ramirez would wash Davis, like completely destroy him?
Right now, I'd see that as
I
like
wouldn't say
almost
would destroy him.
No,
I think Davis.
That sounds crazy to me.
Well, let me tell you this: Davis, to me, right now, with Gamboa, who had a torn Achilles, was way out of his prime, was able to touch Davis. Was able to touch him. Yeah, was Davis out of shape, like some folks are saying? Maybe so, but he was being touched.
He looked horribly.
Right? He said he wasn't. He said he wasn't in bad shape. That's what he said.
I don't think he was in bad shape. I think it has a lot to do with the fact that guess what? You're moving up, and your power didn't carry up with you. A lot of guys think that because Manny Pacquiao did it, everybody else can do it. It's not the way. That's not the way boxing.
His mentor and promoter Floyd, his power didn't carry up with him after he left 130.
No. The difference is too that Manny Pacquiao kept on training for that type of style. If you see Gervonta Davis in the training that he does, all he does is train a power punch. He doesn't necessarily throw a whole lot of punches. He just throws a punch.
He doesn't. You're right,
back,
Kenny.
a punch here at the back,
Yeah.
a punch here at the back. So what that does is, you're only going to increase power by training the muscle that gives you the power, training your back, throwing more volume punches, increasing your training, increasing your regimen. He did not look like he was in shape. His breathing at the end of the fight told you he wasn't in shape. Plus, he went up in weight, but he looked fatter than I have ever seen him.
Yeah, I agree with that. But the one thing I think people forget when it comes to power and power punching, it's not just muscular strength, it's speed and it's torque.
Right.
And you
and
lose
mechanics.
those things. Yeah, and mechanics. Yeah, the mechanics is what generates the speed and the torque, right?
You told me a little something.
You look at a guy. You look at some of the most devastating punchers in boxing history, whether it's Hitman Hearns or now Deontay Wilder. These aren't the most muscular guys. You know what I mean? They're guys who throw.
The longer your muscle is, the more dangerous your punch is going to be because your power comes at the end of your punch.
Speed and torque. It's the speed and torque. It's being able to turn over your shot and landing it at the end of your punch and like I said, punching from the legs and through the hips and all the way through the wrist.
Here's another thing too. Watching that fight with Davis with Gamboa, you saw a lot of times he forced two things: his speed and his power. It was being forced. It wasn't as fluent and natural that two weight classes down. That's what I'm saying. I think that division is not good for him. He's going to have the right guys in front of him, the right opponents that he develops and catches up to that weight class. And he may not have that power ever.
Look,
so he's going to have to revert to the truth of his legs.
He needs to start training more.
The division is stacked.
You guys were talking over each other, so I didn't hear anything that you said, Amilcar.
Sorry, I was just saying that the division is stacked. I mean, you've got
really stacked.
Loma, you've got Lopez,
Linares.
It's you've got a lot of good boxers at this. I mean, even Jose Pedraza's on the comeback trail. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Luke Campbell out of England.
I was going to say Campbell. Yeah.
He's never lost a fight
like that one.
and been dominated. He's a super slick, high level boxer. I think he would give Tank Davis fits, right?
So you guys,
not to forget, we've got Devin Haney and your boy Kenny, Javier Fortuna. Javier Fortuna is a really good fighter.
too.
Yeah, there's a lot of good fighters at 135 pounds. He might be biting off a little bit more than he can chew, and he somebody else made.
Oh, it showed around the waistline. It definitely showed around the waistline.
He's got to focus more on his training and less on his jewelry and other extravagant things.
This is my my last question on Davis before we move on, because it's not like he has anything coming up or anything like that. Is it over for him in 130? Is he ever? Will he be able to? Is he ever going to go down? Is it a wrap? Call Reynolds is a wrap?
Boxing history is not kind to people who go up and then come back down in weight. There are a few people who've done it successfully, but I mean, you just look at the history of the sport, Kenny. When guys go up in weight, they very rarely go back down. One of the very few examples is someone who all three of us are pretty high on is Nonito. Nonito, went all the way to 126 and then decided to come back down to 118. Rigondeaux, too, recently has decided to drop back down to 118, his natural weight class. These are guys who went fishing for big fish when they really shouldn't have been doing it, and now have gone back down to their weight classes. But it's not really that common, and given who is training him and who is, in this case, promoting him in Mayweather, I don't really think that's out of the Mayweather playbook, a weight drop.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree, man. I mean,
so
I think
guys,
it falls back.
So one fight I wanted you. Sorry, David, I interrupted you. Go.
No. What fight? What fight are we going to talk about here?
No, I wanted to talk about Ramirez and Postal. There was a time when Postal was considered a killer at 140, those years have kind of been obviously in the rearview mirror, but he's fighting.
I don't know if he was considered a killer,
Ramirez.
but I know he was definitely considered one of the best. He had a phenomenal jab. His jab was one to really just, it was difficult to get past because it was like a pole stick. But I mean, he hasn't done much after losing to Crawford. I'm not sure really what he poses, what kind of a threat he really poses to Jose Ramirez. You know, Jose Ramirez right now is in an ultra high. I've never been a major fan of Robert Garcia. I remember when they were giving him Trainer of the Year because of Nonito Donaire, but Nonito wasn't really training with Robert Garcia. He was using the facility here and there, but he was really with God. What's that guy's name?
Right?
No, it was the God. I can't even think of his name right now. The guy from San Carlos who's worked with Victor Conte, because Donaire was working out of Victor Conte's his lab and stuff. His gym.
Yeah.
And
you're talking about Remy Kokemi, the track coach, or are you talking about his actual trainer?
The actual trainer was, I believe, I want to say his name was Michael. It'll come to me right now, But that was the guy that really worked with him. So Jose Ramirez right now, I'm very impressed because I think that with every fighter and trainer need to have a certain chemistry, and there has to be some similarities, so that they can adapt and they can really the conversation between them is very clear of what they're both trying to reach and get the goals, right? And Garcia. No, go ahead. What are you gonna say?
No, you're good.
Finish off, David.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying that Garcia, to me, I think has brought out the best of Jose Ramirez right now. I think that this is a keep busy fight to see what Taylor's going to do because, obviously what happened to Progress losing to Taylor. I think that's what they're doing. They're waiting. They're waiting to make their move. It's, at the end of the day, boxing in the ring could be a chess match or a checker game, but it's the same exact way in the business aspect. It's very cutthroat, and you have to sit and wait back in the tall grass and wait for the moments to attack so that you can, get the bigger fights that you're looking for. And I think that's what they're doing is keeping their fighter busy, polishing up Ramirez's tools, and Victor Posto is a good name because that's the only reason I see that fight, the fight being made, was to keep him busy and to keep his tools polished.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Josh Taylor is a southpaw and Posto's an orthodox fighter, but they're both tall for their weight class. They're both athletic, and they're both known for carrying some pop in their punches.
Should be a good fight.
It should be a good fight. It's taking place in China. I'm not too sure why, but again, look, obviously I'm going to watch it. I'm intrigued. I want to see how he does, Ramirez, because obviously the win against Maurice Hooker was spectacular. The win when he unified the titles, and I'd like to see how he does in a different environment against a taller guy. And obviously the fight I'm looking forward to is a potential fight for 2020, which is one of the themes of today's show, is a fight to unify the division with Josh Taylor.
Same here, man. That's the fight that I really want to see. I don't think Victor Posto is going to pose any problem. I don't think he's going to be Maurice Hooker. I think Maurice Hooker didn't have all the right tools, to keep Jose Ramirez. He fought Jose Ramirez's fight. The one thing that Hooker brought to the table was that chin and that determination to get back up. He got beat fair and square. Victor Posto, I don't think he brings that. I don't see that happening. I don't think that he's going to be able to weather the onslaught that Jose Ramirez is going to do to him. I'm actually thinking that Jose Ramirez stops Victor Posto within 4 to 5 rounds.
Yeah, that seems fair. Now, I have another fight that I actually want to ask you guys about. I noticed we have 30 minutes. We're running down, or 25 minutes now. We're running down on time, so I just want to, before the show's over, I want to ask you guys about this, and especially because one of them is Mexican, and my boy David is Mexican, and I'm not sure you're gonna be too happy about this guy, but Yeah, it's a Milk Car's favorite friend, Mr. Spike O'Sullivan, fighting David Duenis's boy.
Munguia.
The bazooka,
Munguia,
the
right?
Mexican bazooka, Jaime Munguia.
Yeah, Munguia.
So I guess my original thoughts regarding this fight is that it's a funny fight. It's a funny fight between two funny guys. I actually like Jaime Munguia, and I feel like he's okay. He has a good body and a good size. He's just an average fighter to me, though. Like, he needs to develop somewhat his fighting ability. Or
let's just say it, dude. Let's just say it. Jaime Munguia is a solo boxeo, late at night fighter. You know,
damn.
He caught the imagination of fight fans by beating smaller guys. Okay, if we're gonna say that Gennady Golovkin was beating smaller guys, the obvious is Jaime Munguia made a career on beating smaller guys. Sullivan, God, the only thing that's really attractive about his style is his mustache. Other than that, this fight is really meaningless. I think Munguia is gonna probably struggle with Sullivan, which he shouldn't, but he will. I think he'll struggle with them for just a short bit, but I think Sullivan is just happy to be there with a pint and take punches, and people talk about him during the fight. But I don't see this as a threat to Jaime at all. To me, it's a keep busy. Why? Because he's generated a fan base. He's generated a buzz. When I see other Mexicanos, they ask me, like, hey, man, what do you think behind me? I actually had one guy that actually told me that Jaime Munguia was the future of Mexican boxing. I almost hit him with my Modelo bottle and stuff because I was like,
wow.
What are you talking about, bro? Like, are you serious?
You mentioned, David, that he's been beating smaller guys. I actually thought he got beat by a smaller guy, Dennis Hogan.
Smaller guy, right.
When they fought in Monterrey, Mexico. I mean, it was a majority decision, but, if a guy from Australia who's originally from Ireland gets a majority decision against a Mexican fighter in Monterrey, we can pretty much just say that was probably a win.
Yeah. I mean,
I agree with everything you said.
I got nothing against Jaime. I like Jaime.
Me too.
But I think that I got to be honest about it, He's not a future Julio Cesar Chavez. He's no Morales. He's no Barrera. He's definitely no Canelo. He's a better dedicated fighter than Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But I tell you what, he's no Omar Chavez. Omar Chavez is a better fighter than Munguia.
You mean he doesn't get high and eat cookies and Cheerios?
No, which I'm not knocking. I mean, if that's what you like to do and get paid $2 million just to show up to say that you got punched in the nose,
No.
Let's bring that up. We haven't even talked about that, about the beer bottles being thrown. First off, if you're throwing good beer, I should punch you in the face. Okay,
I agree.
Don't take your anger out on good beer. What the hell's wrong? Finish your fucking beer before you throw your beer, please. You know how it irks me to see good beer flying across the arena and hitting the canvas and the ring? And here's another thing. If you're pissed that Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. quit on you, that's shame on you. Because I tuned in to actually watch the circus. When I go to the circus, I go because I want to be entertained by the clowns and the elephants and everything else that comes with the circus. And guess what? That's what I got. I wasn't pissed. I was actually laughing of the whole thing. The guy comes out with color hair. He looked like an addict. Okay, nothing against addicts, but he looked like the guy that he lives from Stockton, California. And then he shows up. He looks at it. I mean, his dad said it all for everybody that was not just Mexican, but everybody that's a hardcore fight fan. It's just like, fuck, this guy did it again. Like he pulled this off again. He is the greatest. I used to say Floyd Mayweather was the greatest musician in boxing. Julio Cesar Chavez is the greatest musician in boxing because he actually made promoters and commissions and fans that showed up to the arena at a $25 ticket believe that he was really going to show up for the fight. That's magic, people. That's magic.
But it looked like it. It looked like it in the beginning. It really looked like it in the beginning. Like, if
that's
he really
magic,
did show up for the fight. He fooled the hell out of
me. That's
He
the
fooled the
fucking
hell out of
illusion
me.
right there. Is that he made you believe that he was going to show up, and in all reality, he wasn't going to show up. Now, here's the thing. I'm not mad at the kid, because me and Milcar had a great conversation about Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. off the air on a conversation on the phone. And I said this to Milcar. I don't remember the conversation, Emil.
Yeah, I remember
told Milcar,
well.
I go, here's the thing that nobody's bringing up, is that, for one, he's carrying his dad's name. There's the pressure there. Never going to be like his dad. He really didn't. He had no amateur background. He was thrown to the wolves. How much did his dad really spend the time to teach the kid how to fight properly? And here's another thing. Nobody's really brought this up. I'm a guy that likes to kind of think out of the box and look at certain things. Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. was in debt with the Sinaloa cartel. He was in debt. Let's not forget that his dad was an addict. He was in so much debt that he was being threatened, and there were certain people around him were killed because he was in debt. Who's to say? And like I said, I'm just throwing out a theory. Who's to say that his kid didn't get involved in boxing to help his dad out in paying these certain debts?
Just before we continue, David, quiero que todos sepan que no tengo nada en contra del cartel de Sinaloa. Estamos bien. Gracias.
Yeah. And it's a reality. It is a cold reality that things like this in boxing still exist, and it's always going to exist. The boxing was born in the corner of the shadows, in the depths of the shadows. For folks to believe that it's not, that it's finally creeped out and it's got light in it, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I got a lot of good friends that are in the boxing industry, and we've had great conversations and stuff, but the reality is that when you walk into the sport of boxing, you may come in clean, but you're definitely, even if you don't play dirty, you're going to walk away with some smudge, So
Absolutely.
I don't want to bag on Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. too much because of what his performance and what he did, because I don't know mentally where he's at. I don't know any of that. And
I mean, like you said,
yeah.
I've always seen him as kind of a sad character, fighting for respect from his father. Probably fighting for to show Mexico and everyone around him that he's worthwhile as a person, that he's not just some spoiled kid that have everything handed to him, that he does have value. And it's kind of sad because they keep bringing him out over and over again and selling him as if he's going to be something that he's clearly
use him, man.
Clearly not.
If that's the case, I feel really bad for the kid because that famous GIF that's going around with his pops with the head in the hand and the shaking, that famous GIF that went viral after the fight, must be breaking his heart. If what you said is the case, that has to break his heart.
It's sad, man, because you know what? I see a kid being used. I see a kid that because he has that name, the expectations that people are expecting, and then it doesn't follow through. I mean, he's the one that's got to walk around from the beginning, not just now. Think about this. From the beginning. If you go back to the beginning, the better fighter from the two boys is Omar. Omar just didn't have the first name.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and
so it was up to Julio. It was up to Julio to go, okay, and that's not to say much. I mean, Omar was just not that much better. I mean, it's I think it's really shitty, man, when we expose these kids that have famous names and we have these expectations and they're being told, because they're basically being lied to, that you're going to be exactly like your old man, or you're going to be close to it. You're going to be close to it, my man. I mean, let's not forget, Sergio Martinez told him he was an embarrassment to his father and to all Mexico. Right. Not only he said it, Canelo said it.
No,
Canelo
absolutely.
said it. So this is a guy not just from this time right now, is been told you're never gonna be shit. Imagine that, guys, and not just from your parents or from family members being told you're never gonna be shit, but the whole freaking country has been telling you you're never gonna be shit. And guess what?
Well,
He's embraced it better than any other fight fan that showed up and got pissed and threw beer bottles. He embraced it. He embraced the whole fact. I ain't going to be shit, but I'm going to get paid for not being shit.
I wholeheartedly agree that he embraced it wholeheartedly. I don't even think he feels bad. He was fighting well, and then he just gave up on himself. He literally just gave up on himself. He actually looked good. His power looked good. He hit Danny Jacobs with a couple of shots that I was surprised he even landed. You know, nobody quit but himself. So you're right. He's embracing it. Nobody should feel bad for him. He shouldn't even feel bad for himself because he's the one that quit on the fight. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I don't think he does feel bad, bro. I don't think he does feel bad,
well,
but I think he understands. I think he understands the business is what? Make an excuse. It's worked for him numerous times. It's worked for him, but the writing was on the wall. Didn't do the testing. Didn't show up weight. I mean, come on. Holy shit. The fight site was changed. When that all happened, I was like, popcorn, Brewski's out. This is going to be good. I was like, hell yeah. Hip hop and love. This is going to be better than hip hop and love, man. This is going to be good.
So one of the fighters that I've been looking forward to seeing the most in 2020 is Mexican. It definitely does not fill this mode, but it's Julio Cesar Martinez, the flyweight champion. I mean, the last two fights I've seen this kid in have just been, it's so impressive.
Fire, dude. Yep.
Yeah. And he recently signed to fight on February 29th. So it's one of the, fights earlier in the year that I'm looking forward to. Not because I think it's going to be very competitive. He's fighting Jay Harris, who's the European champ. But I'm expecting, utter destruction. Last time he fought a European was back in London. And I'm sure you guys remember, I mean, he got the no contest, but from the beginning of the fight until the bell was rung, he was just all over his opponent and just like beat him relentlessly. What do you think of this kid, David?
Oh, I like this kid, but I'm going to tell you what, I'm soaking it all in with him. And the reason why you soak it in with guys like that, when they're smaller and they have that type of style, anybody that has a style like that, you only have a lifespan of maybe 5-6 years. It's very rare to see them go past that.
Agreed.
So, when we got guys like, Brandon Rios, I like Brandon Rios' style. He threw a lot of punches. He threw a lot of body punches, but he ate a lot of punches. And I remember telling fans all the time, enjoy that style. Enjoy him now because it's not going to last. It's just not going to last, So Kid Martinez, I like him. Can't wait to see him again. Whoever he fights, I think it's always going to be very exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. And, the last big fight that's kind of been announced but we haven't determined yet when it's going to take place is the final of the World Boxing Super Series, the cruiserweight final between Junior Dorticos, who I felt had the best knockout of last year when he destroyed Andrew Tabiti in the 10th round. It was just
great.
Brutal, savage knockout.
Great.
He's facing off against Maris Bradis, who's a top cruiserweight, has been for a few years now. I think that's going to be a great fight.
It's going to be war, bro.
Yeah.
That's going to be a war because Bradis is no punk. I mean, we've seen what he does. You get dirty, I'll get dirty.
Oh, yeah.
You throw a big shot, I'm going to throw a big shot.
Against Glowacki, it's just unbelievable that last time these guys fought was June 15th of last year on that doubleheader. I mean, I don't understand what the World Boxing Super Series has been doing in terms of having these guys on the shelf. From what I know, neither of them are injured. They finished the bantamweight tournament, but I've just been waiting for this fight. So I hope it happens soon in 2020.
They've struggled with funds. They've struggled with backing the funds. I mean, remember how many fighters that were going to drop out of the series because financially they weren't being recouped, or the promise of that certain amount of money was going to be put in their account. It comes down to funds. That's why, look, that's why I say I see certain fans saying, "Put your money where your mouth is. Show up to the events. Buy the fighters' merchandises. Pay for the platform on your phone. Those monies go to the fighters too, not just to whoever you. If you don't like Eddie Hearn or Bob Arum and all this other stuff, I don't. I get people that always go like, "Hey, Dave, you got a link to whatever fight?" I pay for them because even
Yeah.
though I'm pissed at whatever, I'm like shit, this fight's on goddamn pay per view again. I
Yeah.
always go back and go, well, you know what? These fighters put their lives on the line. And whether I know them or not, they're not a known name. They're there for our entertainment. So I try to give back, and that's the only way because I can't normally make it to a live fight. To wherever they're going to fight or whatever state. I can't always make it. I'm a blue collar guy, and that's what this sport is. All blue collar guys. We can't all make it to the Staples in LA, and go to every single fight event. Just can't do it. But the way you can contribute, right? The way you can contribute is, hey, pay for the app. If it's only for that one time deal because it's going to be a one fight out a month, and you're gonna, and you don't want to pay for that, just pay for that one day. So going back to the World Series, that was the main problem. They didn't have a home, and they weren't getting the funds that at the time Schaefer promised that he was going to deliver. And luckily, the zone helped out, picked up the bill, and other people jumped in and picked up that bill. So that's why it dragged out for so long.
It could definitely be more successful, I feel, and I know that Milcar and yourself probably not going to agree with me. It would probably be more successful if they took it to the premier weight classes as opposed to the other weight classes that are not as popular. We were talking about this other day.
It would, but now you're talking about major money, because here's the thing, though, Kenny, is that the premier weight classes, everybody that's in that division don't want to participate with that. That's the problem. When you already have guys with established names, they don't want to participate with that because now they're equally being paid. There's no I'm A side and you're B side. No, you're all equals. And fighters' egos sometimes get in the way with tournaments. Why do you think the middleweight division had never got developed? Go for it. What are you saying?
Not just the fighters. Not just the fighters, David, but you actually have promoters like Bob Arum that say that he'll never put his guys in the tournaments at all. And it's unfortunate because look, we were talking about Jared Hurd kind of falling off the map earlier. What the hell happened to Murat Gassiev? I mean, he had an amazing tournament run. The last time he fought was 2018 against Alexander Usyk, right? Wow. What's going on, Murat?
I thought he was moving up to heavyweight.
That's what I heard, but he hasn't fought.
He hasn't done it, right?
Right.
Should probably stay in cruiserweight.
And he was on one of that fight. I know at the time we kind of argued about this, Kenny, because you didn't see it live, and I always think that if you don't see fights live and you know the result, that it's not as exciting as if you watch it live and you don't know what happened.
Oh, absolutely.
The fight between him and Dorticos was like one of the best fights of that year.
It was great.
Yeah, it was just savagery, man.
It was really good. I remember the surprise. I remember you were so upset. I remember.
Yeah. So look, I think what we've discussed tonight is kind of the ups and downs of being a boxing fan. Yes, there were good fights on the horizon for 2020, but obviously there's the frustrations we have, whether it's with, Terrence Crawford not being able to find fights, guys that we like Hurd, not necessarily setting an agenda for themselves and giving us anything to look forward to. But then we also have like some of the bright spots to look forward to as well, like Fury Wilder, which I'm sure we'll get into as the fight gets closer. And fighters like the young Martinez that's coming up the ranks, and potentially, hopefully, a unification fight at 140. So I've kind of given the stuff I'm looking forward to. I don't know if you guys have anything else you wanted to mention that wasn't already discussed.
No, there's fights, but there's fights that are coming up that we probably discuss in the future. They'll probably give like full episodes, or not full, but like a half an episode to. So I don't think it's stuff that I would bring up. Dave?
I think honestly we covered some stuff. I mean, we didn't have an exact schedule of what we were going to talk about. Um,
Yeah.
I think though I think we touched on some stuff that we should have discussed here for the 2 weeks that we were off, that we were on air. I'm looking forward for 2020. I think that the schedule so far that we were seeing is actually pretty solid. The amount of boxing that has been put on for 2019 has really kind of show us the possibilities of how our Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays are going to look. You know, I think it's a great time for boxing fans. It's something that we've asked for, and now we're being saturated with it. We can't watch all the fights, but we can definitely make the effort of watching the fights that are most important to us. I encourage everybody to try to watch everything, the lower weights to the heavier weights. They're as exciting. The lower weights are as exciting as the heavier weights. Let's not forget the lighter weights carried the heavyweights when there was at a landmine of nothing. You can
this is a preview. This is a preview of a debate. Sounds like it, David. Sounds like this is a preview of a debate that we can hopefully have.
He's getting you guys warmed up for our future debate.
Yeah, we got a future debate here between the three of us about divisions. And but no, going back to 2020, it's very bright. I think that the only thing that, like I mentioned earlier, if you tuned in on Leaving the Ring here, is that fight fans, we just don't like fantasy fights. We don't want to talk about the ifs and ands and the possibilities. We want to talk about when it's about to happen and when it has happened. That gives us the adrenaline that we all seek. Boxing is an adrenaline for a fight fan. It is that fix that we need to see the best face the best. I could speak for every hardcore boxing fan when I say we don't care about your purse. We don't care who your promoter is. We don't care what network you're on, because year after year and after year, we've seen those roads get crossed. We've seen those, negotiations be made. We've seen those fights that said that the possibilities of it ever happening end up happening. It boils down to who wants to be great. And as a boxing fan and a person that's loved this sport since the day I was able to walk and understand what I was watching, that's what great fighters do for us. That's the adrenaline that we seek, is to see a great fighter reach and torment themselves to get to that point. So I'm looking forward for 2020. I'm really looking forward to see, out of the bunch of fighters in this big bucket of weight divisions, which ones really honestly are going to make 2020 the solidified moment for them of saying, I'm a great fighter. Fellas, again, it was a great night of boxing talk here on Leaving the Ring. Can't wait for next week. On Monday, we'll go back to our regular schedule, which would be, I think we are, right? 4 p.m., guys, and 7 p.m. Eastern time? Or are we sticking to 5 p.m. to 8 p.m.
I'm hoping to stick to 8 because it means a little bit less rushing for me to get back to the crib.
That'd be great.
Dave.
All right, so there you go, guys.
Sounds
we made that decision. It'll be 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern time. As always, you can reach us on our social media, Twitter, even on the Leaving the Ring page on Facebook, or just email us at leavingthering@gmail.com. Again, fellas, enjoy your guys' weekend. Don't drink and drive, because you will spill your beer. And if that's one thing I hate, it's seeing beer being spilled. Guys, till next week.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Happy New Year, David, Kenny. Happy New Year, everybody.
Thank you.
Happy New Year.
Take care.
Ladies and gentlemen, damas y caballeros, leave it in the ring.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio.